Alright, hello and welcome to Ethan's Garage. Today, you join me at another junkyard, which I am, of course, extremely happy about. I haven't been to a junkyard in a couple months, so I am very glad to be back at it. This is an interesting one. This is my first time ever in a junkyard in the city of Los Angeles, which is pretty unique. There's not many junkyards here at all. This is the only one I found so far, although I haven't looked especially hard to find them. We're in the Wilmington neighborhood of Los Angeles, which is a very, very weird place. I think it's fair to say probably the most, or one of the most industrial parts of Los Angeles. There's still residences here and all that, but it's just north of sort of the Long Beach, Port of LA area. And it is terrible air quality here, crazy industrial, just everything is a industrial business here. But I think it's kind of cool, honestly, and it's a very logical place to find a junkyard for sure. And this is also kind of an interesting thing too. I've never really seen a junkyard like this that is fully paved. You know, not the craziest concept, but I've never actually seen one like that before. But that being said, let's dive in and see the interesting stuff they have here. I'm sure we'll see not much rust and some interesting weird stuff for sure, because that's SoCal for you. But let's dive in. This thing here is pretty cool. We got the HunterPatrol.com ex-police car. Kind of an interesting find. I've always been a huge fan of the Crown Vic. And this one, of course, is a definitely police model. Got the pillar lights. Also, I believe this is either the trunk release or this is the trunk. That's the trunk release. Then this one, I think, is the one you press when you want to take the keys out but leave it running. So, cool feature here with the Crown Vic cop cars. I definitely would love to own one of these someday. Probably nicer condition though, ideally. It also has a extremely flat tire. If only that tire could tell us stories. Looks like somebody may have done a repaint that has not lasted well on this. What is this, a Maxima? I think. That or like a Lexus GS. Honestly, can't tell. Every single time I come to a junkyard, I think, oh, I should wear my boots. I even brought them. And look, within 2 minutes of being here, got a whole ass screw in my shoe. I haven't done too much research on this junkyard before I came here, so I actually don't know how many cars are here, but it definitely seems to be pretty big. They've packed a lot of stuff in here. And I think it's probably a pretty busy one, given that it's the only one I've found so far in Los Angeles. So, got here a Civic Hybrid that's very crashed. I always thought they were pretty nice. I actually was looking into the previous generation Civic Hybrid this week and kind of admiring how nice they are. I never super loved this generation. I never totally loved the wheels. Easy way to identify them though. They always have the distinct wheels. I'm sure they're more aerodynamic and perhaps a little lighter. Looks like somebody's made good use of this Mustang interior. What's left is pretty awful though, I must say. I think that's, yeah, it should be a manual too. And I believe, is that a 3.8? I think that would be the V6. And I also was a little bit goofy with pretty much all generations of Mustangs having the fake side vents. It does look decent, but it's always like, come on, there's nothing you're venting. It's not rear-engined. So I go here mostly to just check stuff out. I do always want to see if there's any parts for my vehicle. And the guy at the front told me there was one here, and I was expecting to not find it for another 30 minutes, but there it is right there, green car. Only been walking around for like 2 or 3 minutes and found it. I've always been a bit split on whether or not I actually like these, early 2000s Camaros. As time has gone on, I've definitely started to like them a bit more, but I will say that their crash testing is worrying to say the least. They are horrifying in crash tests. And here we are, a very, very picked over, can't tell the year yet, but possibly one of the later ones. Yeah, this looks like the facelift one like mine, so post 2003. Toyota Echo. Missing the engine, missing pretty much everything actually. Which is good, that means more Echoes are going to be on the road, surviving. Well, now that I've perused the one car of any actual immediate relevance to me, I will keep looking at other cool cars. Let's head down this way. I always kind of liked the integration of the turn signals in the grille of these early Focuses. Honestly, a pretty charming car. I'm not sure quite how it sits with reliability, but these were everywhere, I remember when they first came out. I remember even my dad actually looked at buying a wagon version at one point, which kind of wish he did. That would have been pretty cool. We got, of course, the PT Cruiser. I actually just watched Doug DeMuro's review of a PT Cruiser GT just the other day. And this one actually seems to be in pretty good shape, at least in the interior. Odd cars, though. That's putting it very mildly. Actually, yeah, this is in very nice shape. I do presume these will probably be a collector car at one point. You know, even though they're kind of terrible, they're so unique. I mean, think about like Pintos and all these, you know, AMC Gremlins and all the cars that are kind of unloved become the ones that people want to collect later. It's interesting here. It doesn't super seem like they have a specific organizational strategy. I know some junkyards, it's very much like Toyota here, Nissan there, Ford there, but this seems to be kind of cars just wherever, which keeps it interesting, I suppose. And just like that, we found the car I was just referencing. The Honda Civic Hybrid. And this one, could it be a manual? No? I guess not. Yeah, maybe. Hard to tell. Definitely something kind of funny about seeing a empty Jameson bottle here. It's like, you gotta wonder, is that the reason why some of these things are here? Almost certainly yes. Always nice to see a wagon, of course. Subaru Outback Legacy. Or Legacy Outback, I suppose. Kind of sad that for so long these were pretty much the only station wagon sold in the US practically. But hey, we'll take what we can get. We got another Subaru here. Little achievement badges. Right here is a Toyota Matrix with the super awesome trunk with the folding down seats to get a perfectly flat floor, but with this hard plastic. Very nice design. So let me know if you have any ideas what these things are. My first thought being in this part of LA that was bullet holes, but obviously it's not really a hole. Right here, we got the E-Class wagon with, it's kind of buried, you can see the rear-facing third row seats right there. So it's always a little bit awkward coming here to these junkyards and doing these videos, because especially in some of these more urban ones, there's just so many people at them, so I don't want to talk too loud and weird people out that I'm talking to myself, even though I'm talking to the camera, which is only slightly more acceptable. And this here looks to be a Toyota Tercel with some very awful seats, my god. And it's also basically just the predecessor to my car. This one says 1995, which would be, I believe, the first year of the facelifted, or no, actually a whole different generation of Tercel, although basically a facelift. I remember ahead of the 1996 requirements, it also had 2 airbags, which is actually pretty nice. Thank you, Toyota. I remember a few years ago I went to the Rolls-Royce dealer in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they had a Rolls-Royce Dawn in a very similar color, which was, to me, probably the most perfect Arizona desert car I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely gorgeous and fit the scenery there. Just couldn't fit it better, honestly. So this is kind of interesting. This is, of course, a Mini Cooper. As you can tell by, well, I probably can't tell this close up, but surprised how small the trunk is, and also surprised that I don't see a spare, which I know it's become annoyingly quite standard now, but I kind of would have expected it for a slightly older model. Pretty disappointed to actually not see that. Always interesting to see these cars when they've kind of fallen off the stands. A bit scary, actually. You know, whenever you go to a junkyard, you got to be genuinely careful that you don't, you know, tip something over and get crushed or killed, because it's a very real possibility. I had a feeling this was going to be one of these when I was walking over. Impala SS. Kind of an interesting one, because although they've made the Impala SS over many generations, this one was front-wheel drive, although still V8. I think it had the 5.3. So, not the best performance car, but, you know, still fun. And you can get these quite cheap, which is, you know, a bit tempting as well. And this here is a Mercedes SLK. This one's a 2006, with, of course, the basically 90-degree hood as many Mercedes have. And I learned recently that the previous generation from 1997 or 8, I think, was when they started production of the SLK, was actually basically the original car to have the folding metal hardtop. Definitely a bit of a trendsetter. Another kind of fun old one. An old Golf or Rabbit convertible. Though honestly it looks like the earth has pretty much reclaimed this one, especially up top. This is tragic to see. Subaru WRX. RIP. I also find it interesting when you go to junkyards to find junkyard doppelgangers. Like we got here this two-door Volkswagen Golf or Rabbit. I always forget. I think they did the Rabbit name for this generation. This one's even a GTI. But 2009 gray. Very nice. And then if you come over here, you'll see its doppelganger. A 2007 gray. Not sure if GTI or not, but another Volkswagen Golf. I actually genuinely really want to get one of these at some point soon, because although I've never been a huge, Volkswagen fan, they came with a 5-cylinder and those things sound insane. So look for that eventually on my channel once I get more money to go spend on stuff like this. I also find it interesting to see the kind of wheels you'll find at junkyards, just kind of off their own. This one appears to be a genuine AMG wheel. And of course, as I would have expected, already another retired security car. I never really liked these and they're not really special, but gotta always show some love to the unloved cars. This one here is a, whatever year, 2002 Kia Rio. Not too remarkable, but hey, good little mode of transport. Mitsubishi Lancer. It does not appear to be an Evo. And also, Jaguar XF. Funny seeing these here, although actually I'm surprised I haven't seen more of them. This is kind of a logical place they'd end up. Well, I think I just found another very special one. Check this out. A very old Subaru... I'm actually not sure what model this is, but it's from 1978 according to the marker. Actually in okay shape. What a cool find. If you guys know what this is, type down below. I'd love to look this thing up. Charming vehicle though. So despite the general lack of organization here, it does look like this area is SUVs and trucks and vans. So there's some organization, I suppose. I always thought these little mini doors were kind of funny. Like, it is helpful obviously to get the stuff back here, but just like, what's the point really? You could just have the seat fold forward. But hey, at least you now have a 4-door. There is a first-gen Scion XB, which is actually pretty cool because it's essentially a K car for the US. This is meant to be a proper people hauler over in Japan, and they brought it here, changed the name to Scion. It was originally a Toyota BB. Actually, I remember there was somebody in the neighborhood I used to live in that had converted the badges on his to be Toyota BB, which I thought was kind of fun. But great little cars. These are actually cool too, at least for me, because they have the exact same powertrain and everything as my car. Of course, here we have the GMC Envoy, a car that was heavily rebadged. This was sold as an Oldsmobile, Chevy, GMC obviously, Saab, and I think one or two others. Isuzu. It's had quite a life and many disguises. I have never liked the Tiguan. I'm sure it's an okay vehicle, but you could just get a RAV4. And the naming on this I always thought was really stupid. It's literally named Tiger Iguana combined to be Tiguan. Totally made up bizarre term, so not sure what they were smoking at Volkswagen when they named this thing. And this here is another vehicle that's been ridiculously rebadged. The Isuzu Trooper. It's had a bunch of different names throughout the years. This here is a truck that I constantly forget ever existed. You just don't see many of these on the road anymore, but it's always a nice reminder when you do see one again. Kind of nice looking, honestly. Very Ford Ranger-esque, obviously. I think Dodge would do well if they brought back something smaller. Although knowing them, how they've been recently, I'm sure it'd be electric, or even if it was gas-powered, would be a complete piece of crap, like so many of their new vehicles. So, good thing I didn't find out the hard way, but my first thought when I first saw this fence was that it might be an electric fence, and it indeed is, which probably is kind of wise in LA with so much crime and catalytic converter theft. I'm sure if you didn't have this, people would break in like crazy, but still, they might want to add a bit more signage for that. And these are always kind of interesting. The Ford Explorer two-door. One of the last cars to come out in two-door form, which I'm honestly surprised that hasn't come back as more of a trend. I think with the G-Wagon and Land Rover Defender era of things, I think these are due for a comeback. And also, if you look at prices, I mean, these are not really sought after at all, but if you look at the older Tahoes, the two-door Tahoes are enormously more expensive than the four-doors, because they're just cooler. We got two very interesting ones over here. We got the, I always forget the generation name, but the older Silverado, with a nice work body on it as well, and literally no interior left at all. And we also have a Eurovan with a very funky paint job. What I can't tell is if that's a factory paint job or not, because honestly it wouldn't surprise me if it was, but also definitely wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't. These always are kind of interesting because they never seemed like something that should have been imported to the US, because it's such a Euro car. It's a, you know, Volkswagen Transporter. Same with the new Mercedes Metris. Whenever I see them, I'm always like, oh wow, look, a foreign car. Somebody imported somehow, but nope, they actually are sold here. You can tell the person who owned this before whatever happened to it was actually trying to turn it into a camper van. You can see all the wiring and all that. You can also smell the cedar planks up there, which is pretty nice, honestly. That's the best smell I've smelled since I've been here, for sure. Honestly, worth, if you're going to take parts out of it, taking the damn wood. That stuff is expensive. Right here at the end, we have the Mercedes ML. I'm guessing this is probably a 320. And this is a car I used to not really like, but I've recently become a pretty big fan of, to the point where I'm actually kind of considering getting one of these as my next car. Not the 320, but the AMG. One of my friends has, or just sold theirs, but had one, and very compelling vehicle. So we'll see if I end up getting that or not. If you guys have any experience with the ML or W163 MLs to the first gen, especially the AMGs, let me know in the comments what you guys think of them and if you think I should get one, because I'm currently highly considering it, honestly, so your feedback would be appreciated. But hey, it's American made, so yeehaw. I actually found the plant for this one time down in Alabama. But before I go check out that area in more depth, I should make sure I check out this area a bit more. Seems to be more trucks and SUVs. Slightly newer stuff, at first glance at least. Got a Mitsubishi Montero Sport, which I was appreciated for the 3-spoke wheels. Very of its time period. And then this one also looked to be maybe lived in at one point. I'll stay away. Speaking of interesting paint jobs, this looks like a relative of that Eurovan. How unique. Kind of fun though. And how's the interior? I've seen worse and I've seen better, and that's somebody's photo right there. This looks like it was once a very fun work truck. Not often you get to see an S10 with a, you know, flatbed work back, but not the most uncommon sight out here in LA. For people not from here, I think they'd be shocked if they ever visited the LA area and saw how many people are genuinely daily driving old Datsun pickup trucks for work. And we got here, Volvo XC90. Another car that I've thought about getting, although only specifically one version, the extremely hard to find V8, which I recommend after you watch this video, and watch more of my videos of course, check out a video of that and see how amazing they sound straight piped. Also, pretty nice trim actually. Something I also thought was interesting is that not only does this share with the Range Rover being European, Swedish and British, or sort of Indian now, it also has the split fold tailgate, so the bottom flops out on both of them. I've been continually unimpressed and disappointed by Lincoln, especially their newer cars. They're just terrible. I will say, whether it be their old cars or the new cars, they do have pretty solid names. Aviator, that's a solid name for a car. We got here a car I'm sure everybody's familiar with, the Honda CR-V. This one's a 2002. And as we all know, this is a Japanese car, but what some of you guys may not know is that actually a ton of the ones sold in the US were actually made in the UK, which is not what most people would expect. Also, I love this, edge of the 90s style interior. It's not fully 90s, but it's definitely not a pattern you see on them today. We got here another W163 Mercedes ML, and this one has an interesting feature that all the base models had at the time, which was these gray bumpers. They were painted, they weren't like just plastic, but they decided for some reason to paint them all gray. Very odd choice. And this one claims to be a 1998, so I'm actually curious. This one might actually be made in Austria, not Alabama. Well, I guess this one is made in Alabama. They did make some of the early ones in Austria for a brief bit of time by Magna Steyr, same place they make the G-Wagon, even still, and the Supra. So if you guys are liking the video so far, it would truly mean the world to me if you could like and subscribe. I know everybody says that, but if you don't do those things, nobody else gets to see these videos. YouTube is a very competitive and difficult platform to work with. If you don't have 1,000 subscribers and tons of view hours, you'll never ever get paid for your videos. So if you could do that, I would be very grateful. But let's see what we can find next. I remember years ago when I was first getting into cars, I was a big Land Rover and Jaguar fan back in like early 2010s. And I remember being very impressed by these for a while, although as I've learned more about them as time has gone on, I'm definitely much less of a fan now. I think I'm definitely a fan of what it could be if it was built a little bit better. But if we just look at the design, it is pretty nice, and it is pretty capable when it works. Surprisingly enough, there's already another one. The Dodge Dakota. This one might be a little newer. This is a Dakota Sport. Oh, manual, actually. That's pretty tempting. And we have yet another van that looks like it was lived in. This one scares me a bit, honestly. We got some kind of fun medicated oil rinse too. Just what I wanted to see today. These have become very rare to see now. The first gen Ford Explorer. Nice and boxy and kind of a charming vehicle, but not a safe vehicle. Very prone to rollovers and probably not the greatest on reliability either. There is always something kind of special about seeing a defunct brand like this Plymouth Voyager. Back when minivans only had one back door on one side instead of two. This one's from Navasota, Texas. And now it lives here in southern Los Angeles. And look at that old burgundy interior. Man, these were everywhere when I was a kid. Right here we have the very famous Ford No Line. I'm sure we've all heard of that before. And look at that, we got another two-door Ford Explorer. So I should mention, since this is a car and watch channel, amongst whatever else I want to put in it, I should show you guys what I'm wearing on my wrist today. Today's watch is my blue Seiko 5. I think it's an SNK 805 model. And honestly, it's probably not the best choice out of the watches I have to come to a junkyard with. It doesn't have sapphire glass. It's not especially durable for this kind of stuff, but I haven't worn it in a while, so decided to pop it on the wrist. Interesting older pickup trucks here. We got this old Chevy with a very fun bumper sticker. Welcome to California, now go home. And then we also got this, which I believe is a Ford? Yeah, old F-150. Cool to see. This might be some of the most interesting damage I've seen so far. It looks kind of like somebody dropped a tree on it. Or God knows what else. And check out this old beauty. Very old Cadillac Eldorado. Epic car. I always thought it was kind of interesting how the 2000s had multiple different cars, either named or the generation code being C6. This here is the C6 generation Audi A6. We had at the same time, roughly, the Chevy C6 Corvette. And then we also had the Citroen C6, just that was the model for the weird concave glass limousine of the time. What plate do we have? Well, not too surprising. California. Remember earlier in the video when I pointed out the two doppelganger Volkswagen Golfs? we have a third. Same color, same doors. I don't know if this means something. Maybe the world's trying to tell me to get a gray 2009 Volkswagen Golf with the 5-cylinder. Or perhaps that's just my brain trying to justify it somehow. But whatever it is, I will probably do it eventually. And check out this old beauty. This here is a, I believe, 1962 Jaguar. What a special find. Anywhere, but especially at a junkyard, you know? Awesome. And still sort of intact. What a charming old car. And what really sells it for me is the BMW wheels. That just really very period correct right there. This is a pretty fancy car for being here, actually. This looks like a fairly new, probably like 2013, 14-ish BMW 7 Series. 2011, close enough. I'm sure there's very good reasons why it's here, but kind of crazy always seeing cars that were probably not, maybe not like 100 grand, but probably 80, 90-ish new. And now, 14 years later, it is rotting away in a scrapyard. This is a pretty interesting car, if you're me. This is a Lexus, what is it? HS 250H, I think. Very odd car. They didn't sell super well at the time, and you don't really see too many of them. And if you do, unless you're a total car nerd like myself, you probably don't even notice them. But they're kind of odd. I'm not sure if they're, I forget if they're based on like a specific Toyota or something, but they were hybrid only, came out in like 2010-ish. Odd vehicle, kind of this narrow, tall thing. And also, despite being hybrid, they never actually got that good gas mileage. Like much, much under what a Prius would get, while also not really being that special or performance-y or anything really unique about it. Weird cars, always. And of course, just like an actual Prius, it has the Prius shifter. Nicer interior, at least when new, than a Prius, but still odd car. I feel like even Lexus didn't quite know where this fit in the car market. I've always really liked this generation of BMW 5 Series. And in fact, I've always kind of just liked the entire time period for BMW. I'm not a big fan of them right now, especially with all the new like electric M5 and all that crap. Awful. I am a major hater right now. But this E39 540 is a very, very beautiful car. Just like so many nice little details everywhere. If only they were still doing this kind of stuff. Right here we have two cars that are pretty damn rare these days. We've got the Ford Escort, definitely not rare when it came out. And we have the Mazda Millennia, honestly a car I don't know almost anything about. So I'll have to be looking that up later. But pretty nice color actually on this Escort. These were a major, major seller when they first came out, and now you basically never see them ever. And this thing, I don't know anything about it. But probably actually during Ford ownership, so it probably came out about the same time, and sort of with the same company. And of course, I can't help but admire the Audi wagon. We have another car you never see anymore. This Suzuki, is it the Aereo? Or is this some other car? I'm not the most caught up on the names. Forenza. Actually, pretty big trunk. Another one of these cars that were not actually that big of a seller new, and then disappeared very quickly. Actually, kind of nice. It smells kind of like crayons in here, which is, you know, kind of fun. And then 5-speed manual, which is actually pretty cool. And then some very interesting cup holders, or actually not cup holders, they're just kind of like change, or for this one, paperclip holder. How interesting. Now that this old Fox body has unfortunately ended up here, somebody's taken the floor, and now it can finally be sold to Fred Flintstone, so I'm sure he'll be glad to get a Mustang Fox body. And here is another iconic American car. Old Chevy Impala. Surprising to see here, we have a Cadillac with the North Star engine. If you guys have any redeeming thoughts about the North Star, I'd love to hear them. But so far everything I've heard about North Stars is quite bad. Right here we got the Chevy Spark. This is from like, what? Yeah, I was gonna say 2013. And these are interesting because these are a GM rebrand product. So these should be made, I think, in Korea. I don't know if it says anywhere on the inside, but this is basically just a rebadge of the Daewoo Matiz. Never been the biggest fan of them, but the generation after I actually quite like. And we have yet another Audi A6. Got here, is this an older Corolla or a Sentra? It's amazing how much alike these things kind of looked. Corolla, okay, I was right my first guess. And a bit of a surprising car to see here, although I can see why, it's clearly been crashed. But this is a V8, probably like 2012-ish, actually, yep, 2012, Audi A8L. And look at that rear seat space. Another car I have immense respect for, that's sad to see show up here, the Lexus LS400. One of the best luxury vehicles ever made, in my opinion, and a car that will run essentially forever. Another 7 Series right here. This is the, I always forget the generation code, but this is the one from the early 2000s, which I've never really liked. I've always thought it was kind of ugly. It also had too much tech, and in some ways I feel like this car was essentially just foreshadowing for the direction BMW went in the late 2010s and 2020s that we're seeing now. Not a very good looking car, and not reliable at all. Terrible vehicle to own from what I've heard. It is very sad to see these two here. This here is a 1968 Mercedes 280 SE, which is very tragic to see it here. And then also tragic, although minutely less tragic, a old 500 S-Class from the 80s. RIP. And we got a couple more old Benzes over here. We got the W124 in pretty rough shape. And we got, I think this is a 450 SL or something. I was about to comment on how nice I thought this interior was in this older Mercedes until I saw this abomination. Can you actually imagine driving with that? Hell no. Alright, and just like that, it's time to wrap up the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I definitely have had a fun time getting back to a junkyard after a few months. Make sure to check out some of my other videos, especially a link below the San Marino junkyard video I did, which is so cool. Checking out the only junkyard in the 5th smallest country in the world. I highly recommend it. That's one of my favorite videos I've ever done. But stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.